welcome to the first episode of Nural's Nailed It, where I tried to create a traditional Finnish dessert. And for this first video, I tried to make something that was in line with the month. So since December is Christmas month, I tried to recreate a lovely recipe of Glögijuustokakku, which is a cheesecake that has glögi inside. And glögi is a very popular drink around Christmas time and in winter. And it is sort of like a mulled wine, but it doesn't have alcohol in most cases. There are just a couple brands that does the alcoholic version, but mostly it's non-alcoholic. And it has a lot of anise and cloves and cinnamon inside. And you just heat it up. And if you want, you can add almonds and raisins into the mug while you drink it, which is a popular way of consuming this for the Finns. And well, I tried to make sort of like a cheesecake with this, and let's see how the recipe goes. Actually, on Instagram, I asked whether you wanted to see recipes, and 97% said yes, so this is where this recipe comes from mainly. I gathered all the ingredients here so that you can see them all together, and I'll go over them one by one. And we start with, of course, the gingerbread cookies, and you can also bake them yourselves, but these are store-bought. And I got some butter that I will be using a little bit of, and we have some cream for the base of the cake, well, the creamy part. And I'll also add some rahka, which is quark in English, and a little bit of cinnamon and leaf gelatin, which I will be using for the first time. I got some sugar and also the glögi, which is in juice form. I'm going to start with lining my baking tin with parchment paper, and I prepared some paper for the bottom, and I also will be covering the sides because that makes just clean up a lot easier for me because I'm just a lazy person when it comes to dishes. So I will be lining it up on all sides and setting it aside for now. And I'm using a small tin because we're a 2-people family, so this will be enough for us for 2 days. And now I will move on to the gingerbread cookies. And this box is 300 grams and I need 75. So I will just count the cookies that's in by tens to start with and see how many I will be using in total for just this recipe. And I have just a couple left here. So I think 12 cookies will be enough. And I'm putting in this little Ziploc bag that I will use for crushing them down. And let's just get rid of this. And also at the same time, I will prepare the melted butter for the cookie. And I need 25 grams, which is like one little spoon. So I'm just eyeballing it basically. And the butter I have here is 400 grams, which is like 4 sticks. So it's a lot larger than the American version. So or what I used to use in America. So it's just like 1/4 of a stick, I think. And I'm just gonna bring out my rolling pin to make this process faster. And I'm just gonna crush them until they're basically like not like flour thin, but pretty much crushed all through. So now I think that my cookies are all crumbled up, and wait, there are some little pieces in here. I'll go over it one more time. Okay, that should do it. And now I put them in this little cup, and then I'm gonna be adding the melted butter on it and mix it until it all looks sort of like wet. Okay, this is done as well, and I'm gonna be putting this into my prepared baking tin, and I'm gonna be pressing it down until it forms like a consistent little layer on the bottom of my tin. And I think it is sort of looking sandy, but that's all fine. And I'm just gonna keep pressing down until I make sure that all the pieces are in a single layer basically. And then I will be putting this in the fridge for a bit for it to set and work on my cream. For the creamy part of my cake, I brought out my KitchenAid, and I'm gonna start with heating up 1 tablespoon of glögi, and then I'm gonna be working on the cream part of the cheesecake. And for this, I brought out my KitchenAid. You can also use a smaller blender if you want, or if you're strong enough, you can whip by hand. But I don't have a smaller blender, so I'm gonna be using the KitchenAid for this bit. And I have the cream here, and the recipe calls for 1 deciliter of cream, which is actually half a cup. And this box seemed small to me, so I'm just gonna add it all. But later, when I was throwing out the boxes, I noticed that this was actually 2 deciliters, so I ended up using double the amount of cream. But we'll see how it works, and 1 deciliter of cream is just fine as well. And while that's mixing up, I'm gonna be melting, or rather wetting my gelatin in cold water, and I'm just gonna cut them in two because I brought out a little cup. And I'm just fastening this thing up so that it does its job quicker. And I'm adding a little bit of cinnamon inside. The recipe calls for 1 teaspoon, and I actually just eyeballed it, and turns out I was basically out of cinnamon, so however much was fine. Okay, I think that is fluffy enough, and I'm just gonna spoon out the mixing thingy. I don't know what that thing is called. And then I'm gonna be adding my raka, which is quark, by hand. And I keep thinking that this is a yogurt product because it's always sold in like the yogurt section, but it is actually a cheese product. So I'm not using cream cheese, but I think this works. And I have it all mixed up, and now I'm gonna be adding this on top of the base and trying to make sure that I have a smooth top. And then this will set in the fridge for 4 hours. It's been almost 4 hours, so now I think it's time to start my gelatin, the top, and I'm gonna be using 1.5 deciliters, so 3/4 cup of glögi, and I'm just gonna heat it up. And I have 2 sheets of gelatin here, and my cake base, and I think it's warm enough now for my gelatin to melt, which it already did sort of melt a little in the cold water, so I think I just kept it too long. This is the first time I'm using gelatin in a recipe in my life, so I'm not really sure how it works, and I hope I'm doing this correctly. But I'm just gonna be mixing it up with the heated up glögi and making sure that it melts before I spoon it on to my cake. And I'm currently trying to spoon it on slowly so that the base of the cake doesn't mix up. But yeah, if I just pour it, it mixes everything up, and it doesn't really look like it is gonna be all smooth and shiny. I think it's gonna be sort of mixed within the cream, but we'll see. And once I finish this, I'm gonna be setting the cake up in the fridge for another hour. 1 hour has passed. Now it's time to see the cake. Ta-da! Nailed it! It was supposed to look smooth on top, but mine actually looks a little mixed up with the cream. So, well, we'll see how it tastes. It doesn't look as it should, but I hope it does taste good. Okay, so you watched the recipe and I just show you also what it should look like, and mine, I cut it up into a slice and definitely does not look like that. I do have the jelly, but it's sort of like dispersed all around, and I actually asked a friend to translate the recipe for me, and she said that I should have put some cling wrap on the cream once that was done and went to the fridge. And I didn't do that because Google Translate didn't translate that part. But anyways, it does look good, and let's see how this thing tastes. Okay, I have a spare here. It actually does taste really good, and it is not as sweet as glögi itself, because there's only like cup and a half inside, so it's all dispersed. And also I used raka, which is quark, instead of cream cheese, which was what the recipe called for. That made this softer, creamier texture, and it is actually lighter than cheesecake should be. So I quite like it. Wish it looked better though. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and just let me know if you recreate it and how yours turn out. And I hope to see you next time, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button. Okay, bye!